Do you want to talk about the foul play at all, or does that interest you, or do you want? I mean, because I spoke about like that a lot on the Wednesday show today, which you can watch on our Facebook page or iView if you want. Is this something you want to chat about, or do you want to move on to something else?
I think let's touch on it briefly.
Okay.
Which is to say that I think that the important thing is not, the evidentiary basis for the accusations of foul play is very, very weak. Right?
Yes.
So let's get that out of the way.
Yeah.
But I think what's important is that the evidentiary basis is so weak. And if you still have the Lindsey Grahams of the world ringing people up, this is the House Chair of the Judiciary Committee, ringing up Secretary of State in Georgia saying, can
you
you
just throw out a million ballots?
Can you uncuck some ballots for us?
Right? Yes. Yeah.
People get very excited calling Trump a fascist and all the rest of it, and I don't want to get into that
that's fine.
here.
Yeah.
But that is legitimately a creeping tendril of authoritarianism that you should really keep a careful eye on.
Yeah.
Because once that gets a hold of things, it very rarely lets go. The number of people who just generationally can go, we had a little flirtation with authoritarianism and didn't consummate it. Phew, isn't it lucky that we didn't? Once you're starting to just openly say the other team winning is prima facie evidence of fraud, that's dangerous, I think.
Yeah, look, I wanted to go in a similar area to that actually, which is that I feel like similarly, I don't want to focus too much on the ins and outs, but I feel like what we're seeing is the difference between populism and a cult. Like and I agree with you. I agree with you as well that it's the lameness of the logic that is so important in a way. Like in that. I mean, it's not just about the logic. I mean, let's go through what's. Oh, by the way, before I make this point, just as a little aside, to me, what I find interesting is this is the most important thing. This period here is the most important period to Trump of his whole presidency. Like the man cares about being re-elected more than anything, right? From the moment he was elected, he was thinking about being re-elected.
Yes.
He never cared about governing. He always cared about being president for as long as he possibly could and getting re-elected. So this what's going on here is not a game to him. This is really, really, really important. And yet it's the most half-assed and chaotic thing I've ever seen from the Trump administration.
They don't even, it kind of reminds me of Obamacare a little bit, right? They've had 4 years to prepare their bogus charges.
Yes. And there's
Trump,
no bill.
Trump accused the Democrats of fraud when he won in 2016.
Yes.
They had a
They
dress
knew it was
rehearsal.
coming. Yes.
They knew it was coming.
Yeah.
They've had 4 years to try and bake all this stuff in. And what do? They pulled a few post boxes out of the ground and started laying some groundwork way too late for bogus legal challenges.
But to me, the reason for that is because this is showing us what a Trump presidency would be like if he was more hands-on. Because I feel like this is the part of the presidency he's had the most influence on. The Don McGahns aren't messing with this.
Yes.
Like all the inverted commas adults in the room, they care about Afghanistan. They don't care about these court cases. Trump cares about the court cases. And so I feel like we're seeing what a pure Trump presidency would be like without the Republicans getting in the way, trying to rescue him all the time. And this is what this kind of chaos is what it'd be like.
It's the press conference outside the dildo shop.
Yes, exactly. That's what it's like. Yes.
But this is, the whole Trump presidency, even the Trump primaries, people have been asking, why isn't he more competent? Even when it comes to self-interest, he just can't seem to care about things that are not on TV all the time.
But yeah, just to go on a little bit, we got appeals being rejected because they're defective.
Yep.
Like they literally, the judge is literally writing, I'm afraid I have to reject this appeal because it is defective.
Yeah, I mean,
in a form letter.
This is kind of like Lionel Hutt's grade kind of legal stuff. It's law students trying their first case and getting the basics wrong.
Yeah, we got judges just saying, well, that's not credible. Like just flat as going, well, that's not credible. We've got people presenting no evidence and saying, quote, this evidence will be shortly forthcoming when the relevant documents are final and available. They say in court. That's not to the media. That's in court when they're presenting their case. We got people presenting hearsay. The judge saying that's hearsay, and them saying no, it's not hearsay when it's just hearsay. Like they literally do not know what the word hearsay means. We've got people filing cases without evidence, and saying that they basically they file cases without any evidence whatsoever and just see what happens.
Yep.
And they're like, it's Steve Ducey was fact checking one of the cases. That to me is the canary in the coal mine.
I was going to say, you mean the gorilla in the coal mine? The coal mine floor must look like an aviary has died on top of it.
There was one day back on Monday this week where you had one law firm, but you had Kearns. Sorry, the day before, Porter Wright had withdrawn from the legal support team. Then Kearns, Scott Hughes withdrew the next day. And then Kearns came back. And then Kearns may have gone again. It's not clear. Then they brought in this guy called Scaringi, who was a talkback host and lawyer, who had on air said that he thinks that the case has no merit and isn't going to overturn anything. And then they brought in Rudy Giuliani as well on the same day. That was all on the same day when they were in the middle of cases making presentations. Right?
We have one of the aspects of the last 4 years, maybe the last 5-6 years, that we are still coming to terms with is the power of boomer Facebook brain. Right?
Yes.
It's this blob which is able to overtake real life. And one of the things which we should have anticipated, right? What is one of the features of boomer Facebook brain? It's kind of this faux legalese, right? It's those people doing the copy and paste where they say, I hereby deny Facebook right to use my images. You know, this kind of stuff. Trump uses that same language on Twitter. And it's inevitable that now Trump's lawyers are going to start doing the same kind of bullshit stuff in court.
Yeah. Well, that's what's happening. And then at the same time, you've got Lynn Wood is this Republican lawyer who's rather than filing lawsuits to help Trump, he's filing lawsuits against other Republicans. Like this is a tweet from Lynn Wood. He was the Covington kids lawyer. This is a tweet. Here is a suggested course of action for Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, who, by the way, is a massive Trumpster. 1, order a special session of Georgia legislature. 2, resign. 3, admit guilt. 4, go to prison. 5, ask for a cell near the Georgia Secretary of State. 6, accountability for wrongdoing is called justice. This weird...
Okay, so what is that? What do we call that?
Well, this is where I'm going with the cult versus populism thing. Okay, because Brian Kemp is a populist. Yeah. Every policy that Trump espouses, Brian Kemp also espouses. They are on the same side. And it's just for whatever reason, they have what's going on here is that for whatever reason, Lynn Wood has decided that Brian Kemp is not in Trump's interests at this particular moment. Yes. So he becomes the enemy.
It's not just a cult, it's also content. Right? What these people are doing is trying to post their way through it. Yes. So we're going to have to expect some wacky content coming out of it.
Well, we're getting it.
Yeah. But absolutely. The fact that they have just filed their hair trigger of treason accusations to unload on absolutely anybody just who happens to wander in front of them at any one time. You might have noticed watching, hasn't been as bad on Fox News. But it's been interesting to see that the conservative media can't get its story straight on this. What are they actually accusing people of? It's all smoke and mirrors. It has nothing behind it. They can't even quite bring themselves to say it's absolutely fraud for the following reasons.
Oh, yeah, they've got 50 different reasons which they swap between,
Yep.
many of which aren't even been presented in court. Like this Dominion thing, which Trump loves so much, no one said a word of that in court.
Yeah, and some of them are mutually... You can't have both of them. It's like John Bolton said. It's this vast conspiracy which is so successful that it left no traces.
Yes.
From what I've seen, the Miami-Dade Democrats are not capable of that level of malfeasance.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And and just to show just how much of a cult of personality it's becoming. And I'm not talking about the Republican Party. I'm talking about a portion of the Republican Party, because there seems to be this weird cleft at the moment. Now, I know Mike DeWine is not on Trump's side of anything in the Republican Party. I'm aware of that. But the fact that Mike DeWine said, quote, "It's clear that certainly based on what we know now that Joe Biden is the president-elect." That's all he said.
Yeah.
That is all he said.
Primary challenger.
Trump tweeted out almost like the very next day, "Who will be running for governor of the great state of Ohio will be hotly contested." Yeah, putting out the bat signal for primary candidates.
Seeking the dogs on him straight away.
What is going on?
Well, there's QAnon people just at the moment that even QAnon people don't believe in QAnon anymore. You got QAnon people in Congress.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, so that's what I agree with you. I feel like the significance of this period is that we're going through a period where the Republican Party is working out in the post-Trump era whether it is going to continue to be a Trumpist party in the post-Trump era, or if it's going to continue, or it's going to become a populist party. They're trying to make up their mind at the moment. And Fox News may be very important in that decision.
Absolutely. And where are the contra-Trump populists? You know, maybe it's not the right time to say it, but you would have expected, especially people that hate Trump like Ted Cruz or Rubio, people who have a personal animosity, to turn around and say, "See, I told you. You know, this was inevitable. This guy's incompetent. Even if the ideas are good, why would you have him lead them?"
It doesn't even have to say that. Ted Cruz just has all he would have to say is, "Trump was great. We're moving on now, though." Yeah, that's all he needs to say. He doesn't need to go, "Oh, the guy's hopeless. So look what you got." He just needs to say. He just needs to say, "It's time for some fresh blood."
Yeah, and look, maybe they are.
Which is what every other person says after an election loss. In history. Exactly. Every other election loss in history, they just go, "Thank you very much. Tip of the hat. Time for some fresh blood. Time for some new ideas."
This kind of it's almost like a mourning period. And, you know, people are rending their garments and howling and behaving in ways which are not very good. I can't remember this happening politically. This failure, not just failure to concede, but the level of psychological distress that it's distinct from something like Clinton. You know, there aren't people going, I mean, maybe Russiagate is the sort of democratic expression of this, but Russiagate is much more reality based than we need to elect faithless electors.
Yeah, look, that is true. That is true. But also it's to me, there's a important thing that happens after elections where you draw a line on what came before. Now, to pick up what the thread you just had, the Russiagate thread, yes, there was Russia talk before the election, and there was Russia talk plenty after the election, but it was a very different kind of talk from before and after the election.
Definitely.
And there was definitely a line drawn because Clinton just disappeared. Hillary had nothing to do with the day after the election. It was like she could not go away fast enough as far as Democrats were concerned. Whereas what's happening at the moment is there is no line being drawn. I see no line at all between now and a month ago. Like, yes, the election happened. Biden may be the president-elect, but in Trump world, everything is just continuing on as it was. That's the strange thing for me.
I don't think that it's strange because if we're looking at the Senate, right, and it's likely to be very, very closely held Democratic Senate, or it's going to be a Republican-held Senate, Trump can still play this weird, like, media president role. You know what I mean? He can still post. He still has Twitter.
Yeah.
Twitter has been the most important trapping of his office.
Yeah.
And he still has it.
Well, like I've been saying repeatedly on air for the last few weeks, Trump is going to be America's first opposition leader.